All right, today we're going to go over some training on long-term care insurance, specifically on the elimination period. It's important to understand the elimination period because that's basically the amount of money that the policyholder agreed to pay prior to the insurance company paying their portion. Similar to like a copay for a medical program or a deductible for like an automobile insurance or a homeowner's insurance. So of course, the higher the elimination period is the number of days that they need to pay for care. The higher the elimination period, the lower the premium would be for them when they took out the policy. So we're going to talk about all the components of elimination period and why you need to understand this prior to starting care. If you do so, then it will eliminate any confusion on the back end. All right, so elimination period. Here's an example that I've got for you. Okay, there's three ways an elimination period is met usually. It is usually day for a day or service days or calendar days, what they may call it, meaning that if somebody has a 30-day elimination period that they have to satisfy every single day, that means that they need to receive care 30 days before the policy pays out. That would be 1 day equals 1 day. The other way that they may have to have their elimination period filled is for every 3 days of service that they will count towards, they will count 7 days towards the elimination period. So down here you can see the days usually start on a Sunday and they end on a Saturday. So if somebody started care on a Thursday and they received care Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, those 3 days, and they had a 3 days equals 7, then that would count as, those 3 days for that given week would actually count as 7. If they started care on a Friday and they had a 3 days equals 7, then those 2 days would only count as 2 days. They have to have 3 days of service during the calendar week to get the full credit of 7 days. So this formula here that I'll walk through, this is a 3 days equals 7, meaning that for every 3 days that they receive care, it's going to count as 7. So let's say we receive care Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we did that we did that 3 days for 4 consecutive weeks. So for 3 days during a week, we did it for 4 weeks. That means we were there for 12 total days. Then the 5th week, we were there Monday and Tuesday. Those 2 days would then meet a grand total of 30 days. So this person that had a 30-day elimination period, we would only be there 14 days. Those 14 days with a 3 days equals 7 would actually count as 30 days. So it still took 30 days to get through the elimination period, but by doing it in a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a 3 days in a given week over this period of time, which was basically 5 weeks, you satisfied the elimination period with the least amount of money out of their pocket. For example, if I charged $100 a day, this scenario would cost the policyholder $1,400 during the elimination period. Then on the 31st day, the elimination period has been satisfied and the policy would then begin to pay out based on a daily, weekly, or monthly benefit, however that policy is structured. So, but now let's go back to the elimination period. We'll go over the other parts in another training. I'm going to read 2 definitions for the elimination period. The first one is actually the language from my long-term care insurance policy. It says the elimination period means the number of days you must receive covered facility care or home and community-based care services before benefits are payable. If you are receiving covered home community-based care, then 3 days will be counted towards the elimination period for each day covered home and community-based services are received. The elimination period has to be satisfied only once for you during this policy. The elimination period is on the scheduled page. So this is my policy. This policy is a 1 day equals 3 days. So in this example, if I were to start care and I started care on a Monday and I had 7 straight days of care followed by an additional 3 days of state care. So I had 10 straight days of care. those 10 days would count as 30 days. You could even skip up a day in between. The bottom line is, if you have a policy that has this language in it, for every 1 day of care, then it will count as 3. So 10 days times 3 equals 30, the elimination period will be met. If you have a 60-day elimination period, then 20 days times 3 equals 60. So it's important for you to understand the language in the elimination period. Now let's read a 3 days equals 7. This is one that you're going to see more of. My policy was written fairly recently, and that's a lot of the language in the new policies. The older policy states that the elimination period means the number of days you must receive covered facility care or home and community-based care before benefits are payable. If you are receiving covered home and community-based services, then 3 days will be counted towards the elimination period for each day of covered home and community-based care services are received. The elimination period has to be satisfied only once for this policy. So again, both these policies that I read stated facility and or community-based care. So that's a key too when you're reading the elimination period, that their time in the facility counts towards the elimination period. This one here was the 3 days equals 7, like the example we had. There are others that will state that you must receive, for every day of services received, it will count as 1 day towards the elimination period. Also, a thing to note on here is that the very end of the elimination period in the language stated that the elimination period only had to be satisfied once during the policyholder's life. Other policies may state that the elimination period needs to be satisfied for every event that you are claiming on. So an example of that would be somebody fell and broke their hip, they went through their elimination period. Let's say it's a 30-day elimination period. It began to pay out, they received care, they got well, and then they went off of claim for at least 180 days, and then they had a stroke. This would be a new claim and would be subject to a new elimination period. So in summary, the elimination period is the amount of money that you must pay out of your pocket before the policy begins to pay for benefits. It's important to know how the elimination period is determined. Is it day for day, 3 days equals 7, or 1 day equals 3? Does the policy have to be met only one time, or does it have to be met for every event that you have outside of a 180-day period of time? Now, it's important also to help your clients understand that sometimes when you start care, if you come in during the beginning where light care may be needed, where you only need to provide 4 hours of care, for example. This example that we had here, if we only provided 4 hours of care and did it this way, because the family members were providing care on those other 4 days, then it would only cost them $1,400. Now, and if the policy stated it only needed to be met once they paid that $1,400 and it met their elimination period, then they would never have to meet their elimination period again. Now, if they decided, no, I don't want to pay that $1,400, I want to wait and save it for another time, and let's say they do that and they have a stroke, and now they need 24/7 care. Now, they most likely couldn't do it on a 14 days because of the care volume would be much higher, and they may need to then have it actually every single day or 30 days to meet this 30-day elimination period, and it may cost them $200 a day. So now we're talking $200 a day times 30. We're talking $6,000 of out-of-pocket expenses. So it's important to do a lot of education for the policyholder, let them understand how to get through the elimination period, what the cost is going to be to get through that elimination period. But most importantly, when you're talking about the elimination period, is talking about safety and care needs, not necessarily just the cost, because it does no good to get through an elimination period cheaply with 14 days. Then on the 10th day, mom falls, grandma falls, breaks her hip, she has to go back into surgery, then she can't come home, or when she comes home, she needs a lot more care. So remember, it's always about providing high quality of care, not necessarily getting through the policy the cheapest possible way during the elimination period, but it's important to understand all these aspects of the elimination period. So I hope that was helpful. and we'll go through additional training on the daily benefit in another time period.